First contact gone wrong. The stellar Voyager drifted silently through the void, its sophisticated sensors probing the darkness of uncharted space. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the bridge's observation window, her reflection ghosting against the star-speckled backdrop. After 15 years of deep space exploration, humanity had grown confident in their interstellar capabilities, perhaps too confident. Contact, bearing 035. Lieutenant Rodriguez announced from his station. Large vessel, unknown configuration. Definitely not one of ours. Chen's posture straightened. First contact protocols had been drilled into every crew member since Academy days. Status of their weapons systems. Reading multiple energy signatures consistent with weapon emplacements, but all powered down, Rodriguez reported. They're running active scans of us. Though, open all standard greeting channels, Chen ordered. Let's do this by the book. The communications officer, Kai Patel, worked his console with practiced efficiency. Broadcasting first contact package on all frequencies, Commander. Translation matrices active. The bridge crew waited in tense silence. Humanity had encountered 3 other spacefaring species in their expansion into the galaxy. All 3 meetings had been peaceful, if occasionally awkward. There was no reason to expect this would be different. The response came as a blast of energy that rocked the stellar Voyager. Shields holding. Rodriguez called out. Minimal damage to outer hull plating. Chen's jaw tightened. That was a warning shot. They deliberately aimed to miss. The alien vessel's response came next, not in weapons fire, but in a transmission. The ship's AI translated the harsh, clicking language. You have entered Krivak space. Your primitive vessel is no match for Imperial might. Surrender and prepare for boarding. Primitive, Chen muttered. The stellar Voyager was humanity's most advanced exploration vessel, incorporating technology developed through decades of innovation and adaptation. Send them our capabilities package. Let them know we're not looking for a fight, but we're not defenseless either. The Krivak ship's response was immediate and dismissive. Your species is unknown to us. Your technology is inferior. You will submit to Imperial authority or be destroyed. Chen's eyes narrowed. Every first contact specialist knew that showing weakness to an aggressive species was dangerous, but so was showing too much strength. They needed to project capability without threatening superiority. Send them this message, Chen said carefully. We acknowledge your superior capabilities and have no hostile intent. However, we request peaceful dialogue as representatives of humanity. We have much to offer through trade and cultural exchange. The Krivak ship's response came in the form of another energy blast, this one grazing the stellar Voyager's shields with precise control. The message was clear. They could hit what they aimed at. They're trying to intimidate us, Rodriguez observed. No, Chen replied, a grim smile forming. They're making a mistake. They think our diplomatic approach means we're weak. She turned to her tactical officer. Power up all defensive systems, but keep weapons cold. Show them we can take a punch. The Krivak's vessel launched a series of increasingly powerful attacks, each carefully calculated to strain but not overwhelm the stellar Voyager shields. They were testing, probing for weaknesses, completely unaware that every shot they fired was being analyzed, every frequency documented, every pattern noted. Hull integrity at 92%, Rodriguez reported after the latest barrage. They're not actually trying to destroy us, Commander. This is a demonstration. Chen nodded, and we're giving them exactly what they expect to see. A primitive species barely holding on. She turned to her science officer. Dr. Harper, Do you have enough data on their weapon systems? More than enough, Harper replied with professional satisfaction. Their targeting algorithms are predictable once you understand the pattern. And their energy weapons have a distinct signature we can replicate. R&D back home will have a field day with this data. The Kryvax ship finally ceased its attack. Their next transmission dripped with condescension. You have been evaluated and found wanting. Return to your territory. The Kryvax Empire will come for your worlds when we deem it time. Prepare yourselves for proper submission to your superiors. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Send acknowledgement. Full retreat pattern. As the stellar Voyager limped away at sublight speed, while its faster-than-light drive remained carefully hidden, Chen composed her report to Earth Command. The Kryvax Empire had made the classic mistake of confusing diplomacy for weakness, restraint for inability. They think they've seen everything we can do, she told her bridge crew. They haven't seen anything yet. Humanity didn't get to the stars by being anyone's easy target. The stellar Voyager's apparent retreat was, in fact, the beginning of humanity's preparation. Every bit of data they'd gathered would be analyzed, every weapon frequency studied, every tactic documented. The Kryvax Empire had no idea they'd just gifted their future opponents with a comprehensive look at their military capabilities. They would learn, eventually, what so many others throughout history had discovered. Those who mistake humanity's desire for peace as a sign of weakness tend to have very short futures indeed. The art of adaptation. 3 months after the stellar Voyager's encounter, Earth's research facilities had transformed into hives of innovation. Deep within the Lunar Defense Complex, Dr. Maya Patel stood before a holographic display of the Kryvax weapon signatures, her eyes reflecting the dancing patterns of energy frequencies. "Show me the modulation pattern again," she commanded. The AI complied, replaying the energy signature from the Kryvax attacks. There, that's their weakness. Her colleague, Dr. James Wilson, leaned forward. The oscillation. Exactly. Maya's fingers danced through the hologram, highlighting specific wavelengths. Their energy weapons are incredibly powerful, but they follow a predictable harmonic pattern. It's like they never considered someone might analyze it to this degree. The laboratory around them hummed with activity. Hundreds of Earth's brightest minds had been working round the clock, turning the Kryvax Empire's show of force into a technological goldmine. What the Kryvax had intended as intimidation had become humanity's greatest advantage. "Defense Command is on the line," the lab's AI announced. "Admiral Carson requesting update." The Admiral's hologram materialized in the center of the room. "Dr. Patel, please tell me you have something." "Our long-range sensors show Kryvax fleet movements. They're coming sooner than we expected." Maya allowed herself a small smile. "We have better than something, Admiral. We have everything." She gestured, and the lab's displays filled with technical specifications. The Kryvax weapons are based on principles we've already been exploring. They're just further along the development curve. But their arrogance made them sloppy. "Explain," Carson demanded. "They've optimized their weapons for raw power, but sacrificed adaptability. Every shot follows the same energy pattern. Incredibly efficient, but predictable. We've developed shields that can synchronize with these patterns, actually drawing power from their attacks." Wilson stepped forward. "And that's just the defensive innovations. We've reverse-engineered their targeting systems and found ways to improve them using our own AI algorithms. Their technology is advanced, but it's stagnant. They haven't had to innovate in probably centuries." Admiral Carson's hologram nodded slowly. "How quickly can we implement these developments?" "We've already begun retrofitting the fleet. Maya replied. The basic shield modifications can be implemented within weeks. The more advanced systems will take longer, but she paused, allowing herself a moment of pride. We'll be ready when they come. The next month saw humanity's ships transformed. The Kryvax would expect to find the same primitive vessels they'd encountered before. Instead, they would face an adapted, evolved fleet. But Earth's preparations went beyond mere technological advancement. In orbital shipyards around Mars, vessels were being reconfigured based on the gathered intelligence. Special forces trained in new tactics designed specifically to counter Kryvax strategies. Every scrap of data from the stellar Voyager encounter was analyzed, reanalyzed, and turned into actionable intelligence. Commander Chen, now promoted and overseeing the tactical response development, stood before a gathering of fleet captains. The Kryvax expect us to fight conventionally, to try matching their firepower head-on. That's not going to happen. We're going to show them something they've never seen before. The tactical displays showed the new formations and strategies developed by Earth's military think tanks. Centuries of human military history, from ancient guerrilla warfare to modern special operations, had been adapted for space combat. The Kryvax's rigid, formal battle doctrine would be their undoing. They think technology alone wins wars, Chen continued. We know better. We know it's the people using the technology that make the difference. And humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to adapt, to take what we learn from every encounter and evolve. The first test of humanity's preparations came sooner than expected. A Kryvax battle group emerged from faster-than-light travel near the Proxima Centauri colony. They expected to find a vulnerable settlement ripe for conquest. Instead, they found themselves facing ships that seemed to shrug off their previously unstoppable weapons. The battle was brief but decisive. The Kryvax vessels, confused by the humans' unexpected resilience, retreated in disarray. Their commander's final transmission betrayed their shock. How? You were primitive. You were weak. Chen's response was transmitted on all frequencies. You showed us your strength, and we learned from it. That's what humans do. We adapt. We evolve. We overcome. And you haven't seen anything yet. As the Kryvax ships fled, humanity's leaders knew this was just the beginning. The Empire would return in greater numbers, with newer weapons and strategies. But they would find humanity ready, having turned their own technology against them. The art of adaptation, perfected over millennia of human history, was about to be demonstrated on a galactic scale. The Kryvax Empire was about to learn why underestimating humanity's capacity for growth was historically considered a terminal mistake. Unconventional warfare. The asteroid belt of the Sigma Draconis system seemed empty and lifeless, exactly as Fleet Captain Diana Torres wanted it to appear. Her ship, the ESS Ghost Runner, drifted silently among the rocks, its revolutionary stealth systems making it virtually indistinguishable from the surrounding space debris. Kryvax battle fleet approaching, her tactical officer whispered, as if the enemy might somehow hear. 5 capital ships, standard Imperial formation. Torres smiled. The Kryvax's predictability had become their greatest weakness. Position of the rest of the wolf pack. All ships report ready, Captain. Waiting for your signal. The massive Kryvax vessels moved through space with imperial arrogance, their formation perfect, their approach textbook. They had no reason to suspect that what appeared to be a routine patrol through their newly claimed territory would become a lesson in human combat evolution. Let them pass the marker, Torres ordered. Remember, we're not here to destroy them. We're here to teach them fear. The Kryvax ships passed the designated point, and Torres gave the signal. Suddenly, the seemingly empty asteroid field came alive. Small, agile human vessels emerged from hiding places, striking from multiple directions simultaneously. Their attacks weren't aimed at destroying the Kryvax ships. They targeted sensors, communications arrays, and weapon systems with surgical precision. "Hit and fade," Torres commanded. "Don't give them time to bring their main weapons to bear. Make them spin in circles." The human ships struck like ancient wolf packs hunting larger prey, darting in to inflict damage before disappearing back into the asteroid field. The Kryvax response was predictably rigid. They maintained their formation, trying to bring their powerful but slow-tracking weapons to bear on targets that were already gone. "They're launching fighters," her tactical officer reported. "Right on schedule," Torres replied. This was where Phase 2 began. Spring the trap. The Kryvax fighters pursued the retreating human vessels into the denser parts of the asteroid field. What they found there changed the nature of space combat forever. Human pilots, trained in atmospheric combat techniques, used the asteroids as cover and terrain. They turned their ships' gravitational systems into weapons, slingshotting around asteroids to achieve impossible angles of attack. The Kryvax pilots, trained in the empty void of space, found themselves overwhelmed by an environment they'd never considered a battlefield. Their rigid formation-based tactics fell apart in the face of human improvisational combat. Message from the Kryvax flagship, communications announced. They're demanding we fight honorably. Torres actually laughed. Send them this. Honor is for victory parades. We fight to win. The battle continued, with the human wolf pack slowly dismantling the Kryvax fleet's capability to fight. They didn't destroy the ships. That wasn't the mission. Instead, they systematically stripped away every advantage the Kryvax had relied upon. Their sensors, their communications, their ability to coordinate. Their breaking formation, tactical reported with satisfaction. 2 ships attempting to retreat. Let them go, Torres ordered. They'll carry the message better than we ever could. The remaining Kryvax ships, their rigid battle doctrine shattered by an enemy that refused to fight properly, began a disorganized withdrawal. Their retreat was orderly. The Kryvax were too disciplined for anything else. But the message was clear. Humanity had changed the rules of space combat. Back at Earth Command, the battle recordings were already being analyzed. Every successful tactic was documented. Every failed approach noted. Humanity's greatest strength was not just its ability to innovate, but to learn from both victory and defeat. Admiral Carson's assessment was succinct. The Kryvax built their empire on technological superiority and rigid doctrine. We're showing them that warfare isn't about who has the biggest guns. It's about who can think differently when the situation demands it. The battle became known as the Wolf Pack Ambush, and it marked a turning point in the conflict. The Kryvax began to realize that their superior technology meant little against an enemy that turned asteroids into weapons, used gravitational fields as munitions, and treated the void of space as a 3-dimensional battlefield with terrain and cover. In the following weeks, similar attacks occurred across the frontier. Human ships appeared from nowhere, struck with devastating precision, and vanished before the Kryvax could mount an effective response. Each attack targeted not the ships themselves, but the Kryvax's confidence in their own invincibility. Torres stood on her bridge, watching the after-action reports with satisfaction. The Kryvax thought space combat was about who had the most powerful ships, she told her crew. We're teaching them that it's about who best understands that space itself is a weapon, and that every piece of debris, every gravitational field, Every radiation belt is part of the battlefield. The lesson was expensive for the Krivaks to learn, but humanity proved to be very dedicated teachers. Unity in diversity. The Galactic Concordat station hung in space like a jewel, its crystalline structures reflecting the light of 3 nearby stars. Inside one of its many diplomatic chambers, Ambassador Elena Reyes sat across from representatives of species that, until recently, had been content to watch the human Krivaks conflict from a safe distance. Your tactics against the Krivaks are unprecedented, said Tzari, the serpentine diplomat from the Vesh Collective. Their multiple eyes blinked in complex patterns that suggested both admiration and concern. Many believe your species would fall within weeks. Humanity has a long history of exceeding expectations, Rise replied with a diplomatic smile, especially when others underestimate us. The chamber contained representatives from 7 different spacefaring civilizations, each of whom had suffered from Krivak's expansionism in the past. The Vesh had lost trading routes. The Arathi had been forced to abandon colony worlds. The Durrani had paid crushing tributes to maintain their independence. But how? Asked the Arathi representative, their crystalline form shimmering with curiosity. The Krivak's military technology is centuries ahead of yours. Technology isn't everything, Rise explained. Humanity's strength lies in our diversity of thought, of approach, of experience. We don't just adapt technology, we adapt ideas. Each human culture, each historical experience contributes to our ability to find new solutions. The evidence was undeniable. Recordings showed human ships using tactics inspired by Earth's ancient naval battles, desert warfare, and even prehistoric hunting techniques adapted for space combat. The Krivaks' technological superiority meant little against an enemy that refused to fight according to established conventions. We've observed your fleet compositions, the Durrani delegate noted. Their biomechanical interface pulsed with analytical patterns. Your ships, they're all different, inconsistent. By our standards, inefficient. Reyes nodded. Because each is adapted for specific roles, based on Earth's various military traditions. Some are inspired by submarine warfare, others by fighter aircraft, still others by guerrilla tactics. The Krivaks can't predict our strategies because we don't use just one approach. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Krivaks Empire had dominated through technological supremacy and rigid doctrine. Humanity was showing the galaxy another way. We propose an alliance, Rise continued, not just military, but cultural. Each of your species has unique insights, technologies, and approaches, combined with humanity's adaptability and unconventional thinking. The Krivaks would face an enemy they cannot predict, Tzari finished, their scales rippling with excitement. The discussion that followed was unlike any in galactic history. The Vesh offered their advanced sensor technology, which humans quickly proposed combining with Earth's signal processing algorithms. The Arathi's crystalline computing systems found new applications when merged with human neural network designs. But the real breakthrough came from the Durrani. Our biomechanical interfaces, their delegate explained, were deemed too unpredictable by the Krivaks. They prefer pure machine logic. But humans, Rise leaned forward, we understand working with biological systems. We've built our entire civilization on adapting to and working with the unpredictable. Within weeks, the first joint human-Durrani ships were under construction. The Krivaks' worst nightmare was becoming reality. Their former tributaries were not just allying with humanity, they were learning to innovate again. The Alliance's first major victory came at the Battle of Proxima Secundus, Kryvax commanders found themselves facing ships that combined Vesh sensor ghosting, Arathi crystalline computing, Durrani biomechanical reflexes, and human tactical unpredictability. Their defeat was total. Your species, Tzeri told Reyes after the battle, does more than fight differently. You teach others to think differently. Reyes watched as mixed crews of humans and aliens celebrated together. That's because we know strength isn't just about having the best technology or the most ships. It's about bringing together different perspectives, different approaches, different ways of thinking. The Kryvax Empire had built its power on forcing others to conform to their standards. Humanity showed the galaxy that true strength comes from embracing diversity, from combining different approaches to create something new. They called us primitive, Reyes mused, watching human engineers working alongside Arathi crystalline artisans to modify a ship's systems. They never understood that seeing things differently, being willing to learn from others and adapt, is the most advanced capability of all. As news of the Alliance's successes spread, more species began to reconsider their stance of neutrality. The Kryvax Empire had ruled through fear and technological superiority. Humanity offered something different, the chance to be part of something greater than themselves, while remaining uniquely themselves. The message to the galaxy was clear. In unity there is strength, but in diversity there is invincibility. Turning the tide. The massive fleet assembled near the edge of Kryvax space represented something unprecedented in galactic history. Human ships flew alongside Vesh sensor vessels, their hulls bristling with hybrid technology. Arathi crystalline cruisers pulse with energy patterns that would have been impossible months ago. Durrani biomechanical destroyers moved with an organic fluidity that defied traditional space combat doctrine. Admiral Sarah Chen, promoted from her days commanding the stellar Voyager, stood on the bridge of the ESS Defiant, surveying the combined fleet. The same Kryvax who had dismissed humanity as primitive now faced the consequences of their arrogance. "Status of the Kryvax home fleet?" she asked. "Maintaining defensive positions around their core systems," her tactical officer reported. "They're still following traditional doctrine. Rigid formations, standardized responses." Chen smiled. The Kryvax hadn't learned. They couldn't learn. Their entire civilization was built on the belief in their superiority, their unchanging perfection. That would be their downfall. "Send the signal to all ships," she ordered. "Operation Paradigm Shift begins now." The Allied fleet moved forward, but not as a single unit. They broke into smaller autonomous groups, what humans called task forces, each combining different species ships and capabilities. The Kryvax commanders watched in confusion as their enemies seemed to fragment and scatter. Then the attack began. Human ships, using Vesh sensor technology, appeared from seemingly impossible vectors. Arathi cruisers used their crystalline computing to coordinate strikes with precision that bordered on precognition. Durrani vessels moved in ways that violated every principle of traditional space combat. "They're trying to reform their battle line," Tactical reported. Standard Kryvax response to disorder. "Exactly as expected," Chen replied. "Execute Phase 2. The scattered Allied forces suddenly converged, but not into a traditional formation. They created what human tacticians had dubbed a combat ecosystem, multiple layers of interconnected forces supporting each other in ways the Kryvax doctrine had never contemplated. The Kryvax fleet's attempts to counter became increasingly desperate. Their powerful weapons found themselves striking sensor ghosts, while real ships attacked from blind spots. Their perfect formations were split apart by attacks that came from seemingly impossible directions. Message from the Kryvax flagship, communications announced. They're requesting dialogue. The bridge fell silent. The Kryvax Empire, which had dismissed humanity as primitive just months ago, was asking to talk. Chen straightened her uniform. Put them through. The Kryvax Supreme Commander appeared on screen, their insectoid features rigid with what humans had learned to recognize as distress. You have proven more adaptable than we anticipated. That's humanity's defining trait, Chen replied. We don't just adapt, we help others adapt too. Your mistake wasn't underestimating our technology. It was underestimating our ability to bring people together, to combine different ways of thinking into something new. The negotiation that followed would reshape galactic society. The Kryvax Empire, faced with an enemy they couldn't outfight or outthink, was forced to reconsider centuries of doctrine. The peace terms were unprecedented, not just an end to hostilities, but a requirement to participate in cultural and technological exchange programs. Your species, the Kryvax commander admitted during the formal signing, has taught us something we had forgotten. Strength does not come from perfection. It comes from the ability to change. In the years that followed, the galaxy transformed. The alliance that had formed to fight the Kryvax became a permanent federation of species, each contributing their unique perspectives and abilities. Human adaptability and innovation, combined with the specialized knowledge of other species, led to breakthroughs that would have been impossible otherwise. Back on the Defiant, Chen stood with representatives from each allied species, watching the Kryvax ships now flying alongside their former enemies in joint training exercises. They called us primitive, she mused. They never understood that being primitive, being willing to learn, to change, to try new things, is humanity's greatest strength. We didn't just beat the Kryvax. We showed the galaxy a better way forward. The message had been sent, not just to the Kryvax, but to the entire galaxy. Underestimate humanity at your peril. Because humans don't just fight. They innovate, adapt, and bring others together. In the end, that proved more powerful than any weapon. And somewhere out in the vastness of space, other civilizations took note. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not just as warriors, but as teachers, innovators, and unifiers. The species that had been dismissed as primitive had shown that true advancement comes not from achieving perfection, but from the endless drive to improve, to adapt, and to grow. The age of rigid doctrine was over. The age of innovation and cooperation had begun. And humanity, the species that had turned its greatest challenge into its finest moment, stood ready to lead the way forward.